Hi there, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video I want to talk very briefly about the current market situation, but more importantly about how we can cope with the losses in our portfolio and basically how we can try to protect whatever is left in that portfolio and set ourselves in the best possible situation for the next bull run. Because, well, let's be honest, last few weeks and months been pretty tough. And I think the coming months are going to be, well, equally harsh. I don't think there is going to be recovery anytime soon. I was certainly expecting a relief rally to happen by now, but instead we've been just going down. Of course, there will be a relief rally coming sooner or later. I'm hoping relatively soon. But in order for the whole market trend to reverse, to go back into some form of a bull market, well, I think we are still months away from that. And of course, a lot of us in the crypto space lost a large chunk of their portfolio. In some cases, maybe 80 or 90% of it. Especially if you are heavily invested in altcoins, you've probably been hit pretty hard. Certainly my altcoin position has been absolutely slaughtered in the last few months. So what's the best strategy, or what in my opinion is the best strategy at this point to essentially protect yourself from even bigger losses? Because the reality is that this is not over. The market will keep dumping. I mean, I'm just looking at Bitcoin chart now and Bitcoin is below 18 grand. We haven't seen those sort of prices since late 2020. We are below the previous all-time high for Bitcoin, as in previous market cycle all-time high, so the market cycle in 2017. Again, something that never happened before. Also, this is the first time crypto bear market coincides with a global recession. Because let's be honest, if we are not in a recession already, we certainly will be in the coming months. So we are in a very new territory when it comes to crypto and even more so NFTs. And while I remain really bullish on crypto long term, and I firmly believe that we will have a massive bull run in the next anything between 2 and 4 years. And we'll be talking about it later in this video. At the same time, well, we have to acknowledge that the next year or so is probably going to be pretty rough. There will be opportunities, of course. There will be relief rallies, but for the most part, at least for the next few months, we have to expect that we'll carry on going down. So let's have a brief look at the chart to see where we are now and where we may end up. And also, essentially, what is in this situation my strategy? How am I adjusting it to the current market conditions with a hope to preserve as much of my portfolio as possible and essentially set myself in the best possible position for the next bull run. So if we look at the price of Bitcoin, well, it is actually dipping at the moment. Surprise, surprise. So we are currently bouncing around 18K, which is pretty bad. We've been actually dipping below it just a moment ago. And then if we look at ETH, it is above 900, but I think it was around 885. So not only we've seen three-figure ETH for the further chunk of today, but also, well, it's been going below $900 as well. Actually, earlier today, I set a limit order for 950, hoping that, oh, maybe it will fill in. Well, clearly it was filled in with a room to spare. So if you've been looking at the crypto space, well, you know that the last few days been rough. I mean, weeks and months been rough, but especially this sort of last week or a bit more than a week has been pretty harsh. We had this really big dip on the 13th of June. And then basically since then, we just carried on dumping. Where is the bottom is probably the main question everyone is asking at the moment. And reality is that at this point, we just don't know. What was true in previous market cycles is that the bottom of the bear market was at or above the level of the peak of the preceding market cycle. So essentially in this case, it would be reasonable to expect that the bottom would be where the 2017 market cycle peak was. So just shy of 20K. Well, unfortunately, we are quite clearly below that level. So that theory that we won't drop below the previous market cycle top is already clearly not true. If we were to analyze the chart from the very beginning of Bitcoin, so for the last 12 years or so, we would see that actually it's not that surprising that we dipped below the previous market cycle top. But let's not get into that. I think a lot of us, myself including, expected that we will hold 20K level, which is no longer the case. We are clearly also not holding 200-week SMA, 200-week moving average, which is our bear market support band. We are quite significantly below it. However, if you watch my previous video, you know that this in fact happened in the past. It happened in March 2020. And if we look at even the previous market cycle, we can see that actually we dipped twice below it in 2015 after that market top. So, and well, because it's a 200-week moving average, so approximately 4 years, of course, that only started tracking from, well, 2014. So there were occasions in the previous market cycles when we were dipping below that level. So it's not particularly surprising that it happened again. If we look at the last time it happened during the pandemic, we can see that actually we stayed there for about a week or so, and then we had a reasonably swift recovery. Well, to be honest, that recovery still took quite a while. We bottomed out on the 13th of March, and then the recovery was going on for another, well, almost 2 months. So it kept going for a while before we got to the pre-crash levels, but I don't think it will be quite the same this time. Of course, this was beginning of the pandemic, so it was very sudden event, and as you can see, well, the price just dropped massively in one day. Here it's been much more prolonged dip, and then of course as a result I also expect that the recovery will be much slower. So yeah, overall we are in a pretty rough market conditions. No one really knows where the bottom is. I don't think we'll see 10K Bitcoin. I personally would like to think that we won't see 15K Bitcoin, but to be honest, in this market, I'm not certain of anything anymore. Certainly as the prices are going down, it means better buying opportunities. So at least we have that to look forward to. But my main focus in this video is essentially talking about what happened with my portfolio, how I changed my portfolio structure. If you watched my previous videos, you know that although I always held Bitcoin, ETH, Cardano was always a fair chunk of my portfolio, large part of my portfolio was in various altcoins, mainly gaming altcoins. Of course, a lot of those altcoins are now significantly down, and I was always of an opinion that there's no point selling at a loss. Basically, it's better just to ride it out. But at this point, well, I have to acknowledge that while Bitcoin may dip another, I don't know, maybe 20-30%, hopefully no more than that, ETH probably something similar, maybe a bit more. I mean, I would imagine that absolutely worst case scenario for both Bitcoin and ETH to dip another, I don't know, maybe 40% or so. When it comes to altcoins, it's not unreasonable to expect that they may dip another 80-90% from their current prices, even though they may be already 18 or 90% down. So basically in this situation, I decided to sell vast majority of my altcoins, even at big loss. And what I'm doing with any funds I got this way, essentially I'm putting that into ETH, Bitcoin, or keeping it just as cash in an exchange ready to deploy when I feel that the market bottomed out, usually just through limit orders. You may be familiar with my list of gaming altcoins. I modified it slightly, now it's called 2022 alts, just to remind me what coins I held at this point in time. And I added few tokens which where essentially I liquidated my positions, things like Chainlink or Polkadex and few others which weren't on this list before. And basically I will observe them, and then I will either re-enter when they properly bottom out, or more likely I will just keep majority of my funds in either cash or Bitcoin at the moment, And whatever I'm keeping in cash, of course, I'm planning to redeploy it later on into Bitcoin and ETH, because I think we will still have a few months of this market when we'll have opportunities to buy. And then basically, I'm hoping that this way I can make up for any losses I made on those tokens. Because what are your alternatives if your portfolio is massively down? Well, let's say that you put $1,000 in token X. Then the bear market came. That token lost 90% of its value. You now have $100. Essentially, the way I see it, you have three options here. You can either cut your losses, cash out, you have $100 left, you probably exit the crypto space and never come back, or maybe you will come back at some point in the future, but essentially you got burned and you don't want to do anything more in this space. A lot of people will do it, and the main downside is that, of course, well, you've lost some money and you're missing out on the opportunity to learn from it and essentially to apply that knowledge in the next bull run. You can simply wait for recovery. So you're holding now $100 worth of token X, and you're hoping that in the next bull market, it will go back to its previous value. So you can at least get your $1,000 back, or hopefully it will go higher than that. That's entirely possible. And that's certainly, well, at least until now, it's always been true for Bitcoin or ETH. Of course, it's much more difficult to say about other cryptocurrencies because they are younger and not as proven. But reality is that it's really hard to tell what will happen with any given project. In fact, the next 12 to 24 months will show us which projects will go down to zero, like some of them already did, which ones will have some potential to recover, and which ones will actually flourish in the future. So it is a bit of a gamble to wait hoping that this project will recover unless you are extremely bullish on it. But even then, well, a lot of people were extremely bullish on Luna, and you know what happened. So what I decided to do, and what in my view is probably the best balance in this, well, overall shit situation, is essentially sell your $100 worth of token X and then either hold it to reinvest in Bitcoin or ETH, or just simply buy even straight away Bitcoin or ETH. Because if we look at current prices, if you buy Bitcoin, let's say at 20,000, there is pretty good chance that in the next bull run, in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years time, it will go above 100K, maybe even 200K. Hard to tell, but well, we hit 70K, almost 70K in the last market cycle. So there is no reason to doubt that we won't hit 100K, right? ETH, there's pretty good chance that it may hit 10K or more. So essentially, if you're buying at those prices for Bitcoin, well, we're looking at something between 5 to potentially 10x gain. ETH, it should be easily 10x, maybe pushing 15x or more. Of course, by the time we reach the next market cycle peak, which will take a while. So what I'm trying to say is that although you had $1,000, you now have only $100. If you put this $100 in Bitcoin or ETH, there is pretty good chance that by the time we hit the next bull market cycle peak, if you do 10x, well, you'll be back at $1,000. And it's much safer, as much as anything can be safe in this space, much safer strategy than just simply holding on to a token, which may go up or not. I hope this makes sense. It's of course not financial advice and it's not guaranteed in any way, but let's be honest. If anything is reasonably safe in crypto, it's Bitcoin and ETH. And by safe, I mean that, okay, in the short term, it can go up and down like crazy. But if you zoom out and you look at longer time frames, well, both those cryptocurrencies keep going up. With altcoins, it's completely unknown whether they will go up or down. Hence why my strategy essentially cash out vast majority of my altcoins. Pretty much the only ones I'm still holding is Veracity and ApeCoin. Veracity because I'm staking it, ApeCoin because I'm planning to participate in the other side tech demo, and then, well, hopefully as soon as possible in the game. And I'm expecting that I will need those tokens. And Cardano, because I think that will do well in the long term. But everything else, essentially, I'm getting rid of, and I'm consolidating my money and putting it into safer, quote unquote, cryptos, with the hope that essentially they will start going up, and then I can reinvest those funds in something else. At this point, it's not so much about making profit, but simply preserving your wealth or whatever is left of it, and doing whatever you can to put yourself in the best possible position for the next bull run. This means preserving the rest of your portfolio. This means learning from the mistakes. This means also sticking around in this space and learning about new projects, trying to build something in this space, essentially avoiding the mistake of not looking now at anything crypto related for the next 2 or 3 years until media will start going on about, oh, Bitcoin is now at previous all-time heights at 70K, oh, Bitcoin is now 100K, and then everyone is FOMOing into it. What I'm trying to say is that don't miss out on the biggest opportunity in this market cycle. Yes, we all got burned, or most of us got burned in this massive dump that happened in the last few days. But if we look at the chart again, well, Bitcoin is now massively oversold, as is probably most of the crypto. In fact, if we look at it, it wasn't this oversold since the crash at the beginning of the pandemic. There must be some sort of a relief rally happening soon. I mean, I'm saying must. Again, nothing is guaranteed, but there must be a bounce back eventually, right? And, well, if we look at prices of Bitcoin, if we look at previous market cycle, it was as volatile as the current one, if not more. But then, if you zoom out a bit, well, suddenly all those peaks are far less impressive or far less scary when you take into account what happened in this market cycle. And the same thing happened in the previous market cycle. I mean, that's the cycle of 2013, 2014. It's a barely visible blip on something that looks pretty much like a straight line. So imagine where the next market cycle will take us. And essentially, all of those dips and bumps on the way here will be largely irrelevant. Basically, that's just a really long way of saying that I think in the current market situation, the best course of action is to dump the alts, but not leave the space, reinvest it into Bitcoin, reinvest it into ETH, try to think about how you can build in this space, how you can learn in this space, and essentially stick around and put yourself in the best possible position for the next bull run. I expect we'll have weeks and months of the bear market to accumulate more crypto. I'm certainly in no rush to go all in right now. Basically, I'm just waiting, taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And yeah, we'll see where it will take us. I'll be posting content throughout the bear market. I'm not planning to go anywhere. There'll be new videos coming out on this channel every week. And yeah, we'll get through it. That's just part of being in the crypto space. So I hope this video was useful. If you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to continue the discussion, either pop a comment in the comment section or join the Discord. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.